And good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. We're so excited to kick off the day. And when I started digging in, Brian, I realized I wish we had an hour to speak because there's so much that we could dig into, but we're going to do as much as we can in just a few minutes. So first, let's set the stage with ReliaQuest. Can you share just a little bit about the company and where you're at currently?
Sure. First, everybody, welcome to Tampa. Welcome to the state of Florida, wherever you're coming from. Glad you're here. Hope you enjoy it. And the team here at Embarc does an amazing job. And thank you to Jen and Frank at Established and everything that you're doing to help us bring this event and put it on. ReliaQuest, we're here to make security possible. We're a software, cloud-based cybersecurity company. Our customers it typically is the Fortune 1000. We've gone into the commercial markets, but we call ourselves the force multiplier of security operations. And so we help aggregate data together so we can make accurate decisions quickly around cybersecurity incidents.
Okay, so just for reference, share a little bit about your current size.
Sure. So we're about 800 team members today. We're onboarding anywhere between 70 to 80 new people a month. We're beyond the $100 million annual recurring revenue mark, growing at about 70 to 80% a year. We're beyond the $1 billion valuation mark. Our gross margins are 72%, and we don't burn a lot of cash. And so we're running the company a little differently.
So it hasn't always been that way.
It has not, no. Yeah. 15-year overnight success. Yeah.
So take us back a little bit and give us a little bit of context about when you first got started, what that looked like. And, a lot of entrepreneurs, it's a big risk when they get started. What did that look like or feel like for you?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think for me, I started the company in 2007. We came out of the gates doing something very different than we do today, doing a lot of just time-based, really large network engineering projects. And then we all know what happened around September of 2008. I, at that time, had grown the team to 12 people. We were doing pretty well, and I think we lost $250,000 of receivables right around the 15th of September when Bear Stearns fell. The companies just called and said, these progress billings are gone. We're not doing any projects. We're shutting everything down. And so, that was one of our kind of look in the mirror moments as a business. And I'll say the founder, it matters. When you're the founder, I'm the one cash advancing credit cards and second mortgaging my home, and we did that a lot for years. But I'll say also the team members that stayed with us. I mean, we still have people on the team that were there then. And so it takes a lot of fight and a lot of grit for them to stay a part of it. And we just found our way. We found a small contract that was helping out what they called information assurance at the time, downrange in the Horn of Africa and Afghanistan. And we were supporting a sub to a sub to a sub on military contracts and Googled our way. I wasn't former military. I had no idea what any of the acronyms meant. And we just figured it out. And along the way, some people showed us some grace, and here we are today.
So despite having you had a product that you were selling, but how did you find the true fit that allowed you to scale? Because you were talking about you started as services.
Yeah.
So you're working with individual clients. You're dependent on the next contract and the next contract and the next contract. How did you find that shift?
Yeah, so it's interesting if you just think about 2008 to now, right? If you go back then, cloud wasn't a thing, right? Data was generally on-prem. You could follow the, blue or yellow Cat5 cable, and wherever it dead ended, that's where your data was, right? And so very different today. So for us, we just kept asking the question, what problem are we solving for? And that's always been visibility. So if you can't see it, you can't secure it. And if you look at large enterprise and small enterprise, they're really only securing about 30 to 40% of their data and their information, right? And so that's the scary thing that we have to solve for. So then you start looking at, I always have a belief in business, let's remove high time, low brain activities. That's been my goal in cybersecurity since we started. And so we just started, we patented our first technology in 2012, and we were bootstrapped for 9 years. So I didn't raise outside capital until 2016. So we built so much of our IP on a shoestring budget, nights and weekends, and banging on keyboards.
You should repeat that point. How long did you bootstrap for?
9 years, yeah.
Pretty incredible. Yeah. And so once you found that, so you figured out like, okay, there's something here, we can become a recurring revenue company with a different kind of
Which is a lot better, by the way. Yeah.
So take us through from that moment to when you really started to scale.
I think for us, it was always the customer. We were fortunate. We were born in the enterprise. So I have a belief system that I can sell to a small company or a really large enterprise, but they have big, nasty problems. And if I can get the first large customer, that will lead to the next large customer, but they will open up and tell us what their problems are. And so for us, we got a massive customer. We signed Comcast, NBC Universal, and we just listened. And whatever their problems were, we listened, and then we'd ask the next customer and the next customer, and they seemed to have the same problems. So we started to build IP to solve problems for those customers. And a lot of times we were seeing that companies were trying to use open source technologies to build their own cybersecurity stacks, and that's a race to the bottom. And so we just started taking perspective in a different way and hiring people from different tech companies that had tried to solve this problem for years and asked them, like, let's come together and look at it a different way. And so our technology, most of our IP is really kind of turning how we've handled big data and cybersecurity on its head.
Excellent. So you talk about hiring as you started to scale. How did you approach it? So to be where ReliaQuest is today, you have to surround yourself with great people.
For sure.
So what has been your perspective, your lens? How do you think about the people that you hire? What are you looking for?
So for us, what we have to control the controllables. Being headquartered in Tampa early, there were some challenges, but in cybersecurity in general, you hear about workforce challenges. Well, so there's a lack of trained and skilled cybersecurity professionals, but there's no shortage of people that would like to be. So I've always looked at, if I find the right person with the right approach to thinking, the right attitude, and the right effort level, the right energy level, we call it attitude, energy, and effort. That's what we screen for right out of the gate and have for 15 years. I can't teach you effort. Can't. That's you versus you. I can't teach you attitude. That's you versus you. Like, I can't be a motivational speaker to you every minute of the day so that you can execute. And so we vet that way. And then skills. If you've got the right approach and you've got the talent, you can teach things. Cybersecurity is not impossible to learn. So we've invested. We spend about 3% of our revenue in training and investment through ReliaQuest University. So it's a massive amount.
A lot of head nods. Okay, so we're surrounded by early stage companies who, no matter what your business, no matter what your company, there is no company that hasn't faced adversity, right? There's all kinds of adversity. There's tough decisions you have to make all the time. So, once you got over that hump, 2008's behind you, as you face new challenges, scaling, dealing with incredible companies, what is your approach to problem solving, to huge obstacles in front of you?
This is going to sound a little robotic, but the first thing that I do is just remove emotion. You just have to remove emotion and step away. If that means that you need to give yourself a night or give yourself a couple of days, whenever, you've got to get neutral quick, right? So don't be negative, don't be positive, but get somewhere right in the middle. And so for me, I always remove emotion and go back to that question: what problem am I solving for? And take the names and faces out of it, all of that out of it, and really, what is the problem that we're solving for? And first, I think you have to accept that stuff's going to happen. Things are going to break. My dad is a retired diesel mechanic, and he would always tell me growing up, Brian, if it has a moving part, it's going to break, so get over it. And then the second thing is, generally the first thing that you fix isn't the problem. So, I've kind of always carried that as an operator, and just understanding that, like, this is part of it. If you want your name on buildings, if you want to grow, if you want customers, stuff's going to go bad. So remove emotion and get really to what are we solving for.
So all these things that you've been discussing, how do you bring these things into a large organization? And starting from 10, 12 people, how do you create a culture that really permeates and affects every individual?
Sure. So for us, we don't have a culture, we have a mindset. So we have a way of thinking, a way we approach decision making. And I think that in business, if you can do the simple things savagely well, then when the problems come, you can operate around them. And so we really focus on simplicity of decision making at ReliaQuest. So whether you're employee 80 or you're just joining an onboarding class, everybody knows what my 3 priorities are in the company and what that 3 to 5 years looks like. They know what our values are, and they know the 3 questions we use to make decisions and everything that comes at us. And so when you can drive that clarity, you'll get consistency. And that's what for us equals performance. And so we do a really good job of painting the scoreboard for everybody, whether you are an ops support person working in one of our offices or you're our head of data engineering. Like, everyone has clarity of target and where we're going and the why behind ReliaQuest. What are we here to do?
So is that mostly through people that you're driving that, or are there other types of techniques?
So yes, it's always been, we were a really early adopter about 6 or 7 years ago into performance mindset development, and we took that out of pro sports. And so I brought in someone, he passed last year, Trevor Moad, who's written some books. It Takes What It Takes. He's got another one out about neutral thinking. But we would bring them in and help us deliver our message consistently. So if you think about high performance sports teams, I'm not a big sports fan, but I know they have a finite amount of time to deliver, and they can't say we're going to do it next month or the month after they have a game at 7:00 at night, right? So we can encourage that type of consistency, but also urgency, right? And so we've hired Darren McMains as our director of mindset. He reports to me. He won 3 world championships with the San Francisco Giants as a director of mental performance, and he drives everything is clarity for him. So we have small little snippets. We start every meeting with a mindset moment. We just recenter the company all the time on what the target is and why we're here.
At what point in your growth did you realize that you really needed to take that mindset seriously and start to think about how you scaled that aspect of your company?
So it was probably right the year before we raised capital. We were growing like crazy. Our recurring revenue was exploding. We had all of these investment companies targeting us, and I had to look in the mirror. I think as a founder, the best thing you can be is self-aware. And I knew, like, best is for other people to measure. Better is for yourself, right? So we think about our team. Better is up to us. We can control that. Best, that's somebody else's rating or ranking. And so I knew, like, I need an edge. What's going to help me get a little bit better? And we've always been kind of fighting those giants and taking down. It's a big industry and it's a noisy industry. And so I reached out and called around until I convinced Trevor to come meet with us, and he agreed. We were his first corporate customer, and he agreed to work with us. And just some of the tips and tricks that he uses, not only for me to be more clear, but our teams, and think about what's possible, right? Because we're kind of all chasing our own possible in a way.
So we have a number of startups here who are going to be competing, but not just competing. They are also here to meet each other, to meet investors, to meet corporate leaders like yourself. What kind of advice, these are early stage companies, what kind of advice would you offer them, particularly as they embark on a couple days where they're really, immersed in this environment?
Yeah, I'd say, it goes back to that. They say, there's a quote that says, comparison is the enemy of joy, right? So you just think about what you're going through. That's your thing you're going through. And yes, you're in a competition, but your focus is you're better. The whoever wins the competition that's really important, but that's someone else. Like, so what can you control while you're here? Who can you talk to? There's a ton of great capital partners here. There's really, more importantly, your network of founders and entrepreneurs, like, just to be able to pick up the phone and call somebody. That's something that has been the biggest benefit. There are people that will be your advisors here. There are people that will spend time with you. And, capital is great. Capital is important. We raised it in 2016. We're partners with KKR Growth today and some others, and they've been great, but that is one thing, right? So think about your business holistically. What can you do over the next 2 days to get better? That's the way I look at everything. I'm trying to drain better out of everything. And that's a me versus me thing, right? So only I know what I need. Only I know what I'm avoiding. Only I know what I'm delaying. And that kind of accountability is brutal, but so is being an entrepreneur.
Thank you for that. And I think we have time for one last question. So I really think of entrepreneurship as, there's product market fit, there's finances, there's all these different things, but at the end of the day, it's a mental game.
Yep.
You talked about remortgaging your home. There are really tough moments and decisions that you have to make for yourself. How do you stay mentally fit, mentally strong to be able to take this on and not let your company overcome you to the point where it could take you down?
It's a really good question. I'll say those were really hard times, but those were things that I could control. Those were the early stages. There are still hard times. We're a massive multi-billion-dollar global company, but I can't control those things every day, right? And so it's different. It's just as brutal, but in a different way, and it's fun. But what I try to do is your past success, it's my belief, will embolden you for the things that haven't come your way yet, right? And so when the pandemic broke out, I borrowed a couple of plays that I used in 2008, 2009, and 2010. So I would just say that if I asked everybody in the room what your top 10 biggest failures were, I'd get like 20, 30 lists. People would just fly down there. 4th grade, Miss Lippy, 6th grade, this, right? You're going to list them all. But write down your top 10 wins and put that somewhere and look at it every once in a while, because you're going to have to refer back to that list when things go really bad, and they will. Like, expect it. That's okay. And I'm an optimist. I'm just a realist. And so you got to look at your top 10 wins and say, okay, I got through that. I will get through this. And that may sound simple, and it is, but simple things are seldom easy. So I think we have to train the mind and how we think to expect that challenges are going to come. Expect, Michael Phelps trained for his head cap to break, and it happened to him on the podium, and he still set a world record, right? So we just have to look at our wins sometimes, and too much in our society, we focus on the bad and not the wins. And, I think that being an entrepreneur is tough, and you only ever read stories about ReliaQuest after they've made it somewhere. But I can tell you, find me a founder that is, talks in the third person, is overly arrogant. I'll find you somebody who hasn't built something that's that great, right? So it's tough. And so I'd reach out to people, and I do that a lot. That's why my wife and I are so vested in Embarc Collective, because I just think it's amazing what people do when they come together and the technologies they create.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for supporting this event, being here today, sharing your experiences and your thoughts with everyone. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Good luck, everybody.